I'd like to start by thanking the organizers for inviting me to be here today. It's a true honor and privilege to be in this august gathering, to dignitaries on the stage, off the stage, and friends. It is said that quality is the totality of features and characteristics of a product or service that bear on its ability to satisfy given needs. This is a definition taken from American Society of Quality. I'm not going to debate this with a room full of people who are experts on quality, but I'd like to focus and stress on the last part, satisfy the given needs. And I think there is a context to this, and I think it's important for us as healthcare givers to put that in context. India is an extremely diverse country with different standards, of different problems, different challenges, and different access to healthcare. I mean, all of us are familiar with this. There is a balance between excellence and relevance. If I were to take an analogy of our arm, there's a full flexion and there's a full extension. And one extreme is very high standards with very little relevance to the majority of our population. And the other extreme is very poor standards, poor excellence. Neither in fixed positions are good. We need to learn to recognize the importance to be able to adapt, blindly applying standards that have been developed in other developed countries and implying that it will work over here will not be correct. It will not be socially relevant, and nor will it impact the majority of our patients. And I think that's important for all of us to understand. And I'm sure that the quality managers over here, like the speaker before me has said, the importance of being context-specific and relevant to our country is very important, rather than blindly chasing rankings and standards set by others. Patients first is also a very important aspect. While we talk about many aspects in quality as key performance indicators, getting certifications, I think it's very important to bring the patient into the center of that entire process. And that, again, will depend a lot, to a large extent, where you work and what you do. What is relevant for CMC will not work to one of our outreach hospitals in Madhepura, where the challenge is even having a doctor there is quite a challenge. So what you apply as quality in CMC will be very different from what you apply over there, and there is no reason for us to look down on somebody else. And the only time you have a right to look down on somebody is if you're giving a hand to help them up. We also learn to need to adapt and constantly adapt to the challenges that are faced in our hospitals. How do we improve access to the poor and marginalized? That should be a very important parameter of quality assessment for a country as beautiful and diverse as us with all its challenges. And that, I'm not an expert in quality management, would be my challenge to CAHO, and how do you factor that into your quality assessment and not make a standard that is relevant for a centralized, sitting in a tertiary center versus something that's sitting in rural India. Finally, when it comes to quality, there are many aspects to improvement of quality. I will not dwell on this in detail, but I think it's important that quality and leadership is important. There is a danger of leadership to isolate itself, and not that we are kings and queens, but I'm going to quote from Thiruvallur. It sounds much better in Tamil. It takes away the sharpness of the statements when you translate it. But he said the best way to bring down a king is not by going to war, but by surrounding him with people who only tell him nice things. He goes on to say, the enemies cannot destroy the king who has at his service the respect, friendship of wise men who can find fault, disagree, and correct him. And you can see the challenges that we in administration face. It's an inherent tendency to slip into a comfort zone of surrounding yourselves with people who say the right things and make you feel good. But it's so important to listen to the ground as to what is happening. The solutions are not often at the top. The solutions are often at the people who are on the front line and in the battlefield, so to speak, at the front line and dealing with them. Listening to them, understanding them, and saying, how can we facilitate and bring solutions to them is important. Because in addition to patients, the well-being of our staff and our service providers is equally important. I'll stop here and say that we need to have metrics that at times may be different for our country, and very central to that is access to healthcare. And that, I think, should be central to all of us, including those in quality management. Thank you.